guess you couldn't do better here to get stuff to grow. I wouldn't have done it last year.
It's basically ready to go.
It's actually real green.
Okay.
There's the cigarette.
Let me know when y'all make a smile.
Whenever it moves you.
It used to be right there by the gates, you know, there's like that.
Yeah, that's right.
Okay, let's get started with this Port of Shelby Commission meeting from the 5th of July, 2011. Feel free to join us in the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, we've got a 15-minute comment period with limits of 3 minutes per person on items that pertain to the agenda. Anybody?
Well, I'd like to speak, but, you know, I'd like to trail anybody else that'd like to speak first, so I don't take up any time.
Your comments pertain to items on the agenda?
I think so. Is the letter of censure to Mr. Miles on the agenda?
Yep.
Well, I'd like to address that.
Feel free if you step up to the podium.
I read the letter. I'd like to know who drafted it. I'm sure the public would like to know who drafted it. I feel it's a misconstruction of state law, and that it's rather arrogant and high-handed, and that the commissioners would be well advised not to sign anything of that sort. Early meeting last year, the chair commented on the heavy interest the public was showing to what was going on at this meeting, which had been historically unusual. And he said he didn't want it to become a circus. I feel personally that some of what I read makes it exactly that. This commission has no legal authority that I know of, other than their First Amendment rights, to censor Mr. Miles any more than anybody else or anybody cared to censor you. But you don't have any authority, you're not Congress, you don't have any power. You might be able to get a judge to side with you, but I doubt it. You have to have a legal theory to do that. So I'm very critical of the letter, and I think it's reflective of a lot of chicanery that's going on in this port. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else? Close that portion of the meeting. We're on to the adoption of the agenda. Any changes to the agenda from either of the other commissioners? We'll assume the adoption of the agenda as presented. We're down to approval of the meeting minutes from the 21st of June. Any comments, issues, changes, deletions on those minutes?
I reviewed them, they're fine.
None that I'm aware of.
We'll assume adoption of those minutes with no changes from the draft. Check control report.
Check control report. Checks number 22564 through 22607 in the amount of $82,663.72 has been reviewed by myself with the aid of our finance manager and the concurrence of our CPA. I find all the port's finances to be in good order.
Comments? We will assume acceptance of the check control report as presented. takes us down to the action discussion items, public records policy, a resolution pertaining thereto.
Commissioners, this is the resolution 10-4 that,
11-4.
or 11-4, I'm sorry, I missed a year there. Anyway, 11-4 that we handed out to the commissioners last time to look through and see if there were any changes or adjustments that were warranted. Staff has looked through these. We've made some minor changes, primarily is some wordsmithing issues. I know Commissioner Miles did have one suggestion about the possibility of hiring a part-time public records individual to assign straight to. And to be very blunt, you know, we're hoping that maybe as time goes by, we won't have nearly as many public records requests as we've had as of late. But I think that my executive assistant and I both feel that we can cover and handle what we have immediately at this point for right now. So we've decided that that's probably, I'm not gonna recommend that at this point in time. And other than that, we haven't heard much from anyone else. So I think we're, unless there's anything else out there, we're pretty much ready to read the resolution and recommend a vote on it today.
I think before we read the resolution, it would be appropriate to have a motion to adopt. Chair will entertain a motion to adopt resolution 11-04.
I'll do it for the purposes of discussion.
Okay, is that a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded to adopt resolution 11-04. If we could have the resolution itself read. It's rather lengthy.
Hopefully I won't put too many to sleep, but anyway, Port of Shelton Resolution 11-04. Resolution of the Commission of the Port of Shelton establishing rules for compliance with the Public Records Act, issuing a formal order exempting the Port of Shelton from maintaining an index under RCW 4256.070 sections 3 and 4, setting public records request copy fee at 15 cents per page, and appointing the executive assistant of the Port of Shelton as the public records officer. Whereas RCW sections 42.56.040 and 42.56.070 and 42.56.100 of the Public Records Act, known as the Act, collectively require that state and local agencies provide, publish, and prominently display certain information, exemptions, and rules governing disclosure of public records. And whereas the Port of Shelton, the port, is a local agency as defined in the Act and must therefore comply with its provisions. And whereas the attached Public Records Act rules, known as the rules, fulfill one of these requirements and were developed using the Attorney General's Office advisory model rules for disclosure of public records. And whereas RCW 4256.070 Section 3 requires an agency to maintain an index of records therein described unless the local agency determines that it would be unduly burdensome to do so, and in that event it must issue and publish a formal order specifying why it would be unduly burdensome. And whereas RCW 4256.120 allows for a per-page copy charge of 15 cents when fulfilling public records requests. And whereas RCW 4256.580 requires that each agency appoint and publicly identify a public records officer and provide contact information for that officer. Now therefore be it resolved by the Port of Shelton Commission as follows. Section 1. The attached rules are adopted as the rules of the port will follow in handling public records requests, and the Port Executive Director is hereby authorized to amend the rules as necessary to remain in compliance with evolving law governing and handling of public records requests and to update the rules as facts may require. Section 2. The port is comprised of a marina, airport, and industrial park serving over 15,000 citizens, which maintain separate databases and/or record-keeping systems for the indexing of records and information. These writings may be maintained in several formats, including but not limited to paper records, computer files, photographs, audio recordings, video recordings, etc. Because these records are diverse, complex, and stored in multiple locations and in multiple computer systems, it is unduly burdensome to maintain a central index of these records. Therefore, the commission finds that maintaining the index required by RCW 4256.070, Section 3, would be unduly burdensome. For these reasons, the commission hereby formally orders that such an index does not have to be maintained as allowed under RCW 4256.070, Section 4, so long as all other records are available for public inspection and copying in conformity with applicable law. Section 3, the executive assistant is appointed as the port's public records officer, and the contract information is provided in the attached rules. Section 4, the executive assistant is directed to post and maintain the rules on the port's website and otherwise post, prominently display, or publish the rules as required by law, and make rules available for inspection and copying at the port central office. Section 5, the port is hereby authorized to charge 15 cents per copy when fulfilling the Public Records Act request, adopted by the Port of Shelton Commission at a regular meeting thereof on this date.
Thank you. Discussion. Okay with me?
I have just a few that I would like to see, but I'm going to ask that the commission table this item. I believe that the public has a right to inspect this document and have a hearing set for public comment on this proposed resolution 10-02. It would be helpful to accept testimony from the public who have been through this process with the Port of Shelton, and I believe that they may have helpful tips to make this process a successful and positive tool for the Port of Shelton. So I'm requesting that we table this item and have a hearing set for the public.
I think Commissioner Miles misspoke. It wasn't resolution 10-02, that's already been established.
10-04.
11.
It's actually 11.
Oh, sorry. 11-04.
1104, correct.
Well, I don't agree with you, Jack. I think this is pretty straightforward. It's common sense. It's to the point. I don't see any reason for a public hearing or anything else.
Because the public has to go through this process and the delays that they have had or the frustrations they may have had, you do not believe that getting testimony from them would help us to create a better working document for this organization?
Well, I don't know that I said that. What I said is this makes sense to me and it stands. It's okay. I haven't got any problem with it at all. I don't see how anybody could. All you gotta do is read it.
I have read it, and I have several notes that I have made that I would like to see implemented, but before we adopt it, I would like to have an opportunity to have those changes made before we adopt this resolution.
Well, I just stated my position.
We've been working with this for over a month.
I know, and I see nothing that I have asked the attorney, or that I passed on to the attorney that was put in this document for approval today.
Just because you wanted it put in there doesn't mean it gets put in there.
Have we been able to discuss it as a commission?
We certainly are discussing it now. We
Okay.
discussed it at some.
So if I have some additional changes that I would like to see in this, you would consider it and table this, and then we come back to it?
Not me. I don't want to table it.
Okay.
Well, I did put your comments that you provided to me and wrote a letter to the entire board through Director Dobson, and I think you all got a copy of that.
Right.
I also pointed out that if you had any additional questions or comments, to either provide those to Director Dobson or to me. And I didn't get any further comments. I didn't get any from Commissioner Hupp. I think I got a note from Commissioner Waltner, said it looked fine. And the one that you discussed with me orally, I passed on and put in both writing and described it as best I
I have
could
that copy.
in writing. That's all I'd heard.
I've seen the comments that you provided to the general counsel. As far as I'm concerned, it improves the system that we've been working with for years, which nobody seems to have had any objection to until recently. It improves that system. It incorporates some details that have been dictated by statute since it was updated the last time. And I'm perfectly comfortable with the way it reads and the amount of time we've had to review it. And there is no provision or requirement for a public hearing or public input on it.
The problem that I have with this is that, and I'm sure I'm not the only one that has asked for public information over the last several months, where it has been delayed, and delayed. I know on 3 occasions of a request that I put in many weeks ago, that I finally got a copy that is ready for me to pick up. But in the letter that I received, and I'm sure the others have, is the constant reason for the delays is that we don't have adequate staffing. And by me asking that we have a position created that would be part-time, would be to solely work on public requests and get them back expeditiously.
Well, Commissioner Miles, if I may, to address that, number one, we don't have the budget to add an additional employee at this time. And number two, all I have to do is look at the public records requests, and if you look over the last several years, we averaged between 2, 3, maybe 4 public records requests for the entire year. And within a 2-week window, you submitted 36 public records requests. So to say that everything just got backed up, you know, I just have to look at the number of requests that have come to us within the last 2 months.
The request that I had asked for came weeks before those 36 others. And to say that, let's just say, if we don't comply, or somebody wants to file a suit against us because we're not complying, it's a lot cheaper to have that part-time employee to get us in compliance than to pay out all this money because we're fighting lawsuits.
We've been in compliance with the Public Records Act, and we will continue to be there. There's no definition that says because someone submits something today that they have an immediate right to that the following day. We have a 5-day window in which to respond, and that's what we do. We let them know, and we give them our best guess as to when that records request will be fulfilled. The fact that we've been inundated with public records requests, and again, I'm sorry to say it again, but you know, your 36 requests have definitely put you know, a bubble in the middle of that system that's slowing things down. So, you know, we're working through them as quickly as we can, as expeditiously as we can. This really is simply addressing policy about what's made available and how it's made available. That's what this policy is really all about.
Those requests that I put in are not something that we have to dig deep for. The requests that I put in were from the check control reports, which are on file and are easily accessible. Okay? Most of the stuff that I requested is on file and have already been paid out. Okay? There are things that have already been dealt with and they're on file, on computer. How hard is it to pull those up on computer and get those turned around to the requester? Because it's not just me that have requested certain documents, others have.
Well, I'll just address 2 things. Well, actually just the one, I'll just say, point blank, most of your requests and the material that you've asked for, you've already had access to. It's been in your commission packs. And so we're going back and we're reinventing the same wheel. The second point that I did remember though, and I will talk directly about that, is, you know, with the check control log, you already had all of the information given to you once, but you want it now in a different format.
I don't get
And that's what we're
I don't get
gonna
the
do.
check control report that
You've already had the
Mr.
check
Waller
control log
gets.
had already been fulfilled for you, and
I
the
don't
same
get those.
information that you wanted is in
I don't
that.
get
All you
those.
had to do was add it
Okay,
up.
okay, folks.
I don't get
What's
those.
this got to do with this resolution?
This argument has nothing to do with this resolution. This argument goes someplace else. It has nothing to do in the conversation that pertains to this resolution.
I call for the question.
Are there any more comments pertaining to the resolution itself?
Yes. Are you not willing to allow public comment on a process that we're about to adopt of a policy
I just stated my
that they
position,
are
Jack.
directly involved with?
That's correct. I stated my position. This thing makes plenty of good
That's-
sense to me,
I
right
just wanted
there.
it for the record.
Let's call,
Thank
I
you.
call for the question.
Any other comments,
One more comment, Mr. Chairman.
please?
It would be appropriate for the board to review this policy from time to time. It can always be amended. This is not a policy that's in concrete or stone. In fact, many municipalities are encouraged to review it on an annual basis, and some, in fact, do re-adopt those on an annual basis. So you'd always have the opportunity to go back and look at this. If somebody brings up a concern, I think I gave you a very detailed, lengthy letter as to how we got to the recommendations here, looking at ports and cities and other districts, municipalities. So we've really taken the best of all the best. We tried to get to you a very good, clean approach. But if you find something's missing, then whether that's from the public or from a commissioner or from an employee, when they're processing this, you could always amend your policy. That's easily done. You could always even come back and amend the resolution, which could easily be done as well.
And if I also may, section 1 addresses that very issue.
Right. Okay, any other comments? All those in favor of adopting resolution 11-04 signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed?
Aye.
Motion carries. Okay, the letter of censure. I brought this issue to the agenda, and it would be appropriate for me to make a motion at this time to adopt the letter of censure to be sent to Commissioner Miles as a result of disclosure of confidential information out of an executive session that occurred on the 21st of June.
Can you elaborate?
And that it's in the form of a motion.
I second it.
Moved and seconded. Discussion.
I have a couple questions. You say that you drafted this letter and no one else participated?
No, I didn't say that. I said I drafted the letter. Now, if you want to know who else participated in it, I asked Attorney Hauser to take a look at it, and he did.
Okay. Did you get authorization from this board to do so?
To do what?
To speak with the attorney on this draft letter?
I've got all the authority that I need to speak with the attorney on anything I want to speak to him on
Is
as the
that
chairman
right?
of this board.
Okay.
Yes.
How did you know that Commissioner Wallitner would be in agreement?
I didn't.
Okay? Said that the board will consider penalties provided for under RCW 42.23.050 for violations of this chapter. How do you know he agreed with that when you wrote this?
It was my intention that the board may consider further penalties.
But how do you know that? Isn't the proper procedure like we did in other matters, that if you had a problem with what I said, you bring it to this commission, and then you decide that the commission can direct someone to write this draft letter?
This letter is in a draft form, and it's totally within my authority and responsibility, as a matter of fact.
But you got the attorney involved, and that
Yeah.
takes the commission.
No, it does not. Absolutely
I don't
does
think it
not.
does.
You've done it yourself 2 weeks ago.
He came to me, we sat right here.
Commissioner Miles, I did not come to you. You sent
When
me
we
an
talked
email
about
and said you
the-
wanted a special meeting.
That is the proper procedure. I'm asking a request for a meeting so that it can be relayed to the commissioners. That's it. They can agree or they don't have to agree.
That's correct.
That's
And
not a
what I did.
decision. Your decision to talk to the attorney and draft this letter is inappropriate.
I don't think it's inappropriate at all.
Neither do I.
I think it's within not only my sphere of authority, but responsibility.
It's your responsibility,
I
it's
saw-
our responsibility for the actions of this man right over here, and you chose not to do anything.
Jack,
Hold it. Wait a minute, I
Let's-
missed that one.
let's stick to
Okay.
this then.
Our responsibility lies on what this man does. And you, as commissioners, did nothing about it.
What has that got to do with this?
That's exactly the comments that I made from a decision you chose not to make as a result of what I said.
I don't understand what you're talking about.
Has nothing to do with this letter.
Explain to me, if you have not had prior knowledge of this letter other than Friday, how can you concur with this? What is it that I said?
First of all, what makes you think I've concurred with it yet? Who said that? I haven't said a thing. I got
It's
this
the
letter
wording
on
on
Friday.
this, it's the wording on
I
this.
had no prior knowledge of this letter
Okay.
before Friday. I came out here and got my pack, and that letter was in it, and I discussed it with John Dobson that day, which is my right. I have not talked to our attorney, and I'll tell you this, Jack, if he hadn't written that letter, I would've.
Well, see, then, you've already,
No, I
been in
haven't already
collusion
anything.
already.
I'm telling you that I confided with John that I wanted to censure you.
And what authority does he have to make a comment about that?
What are you talking about?
Why did you go to him?
Because I can talk to him.
What does it matter?
He's the coordinator of information in this organization, in case you don't understand that.
I'm confused.
Because the commissioners can't talk
Is it
to
just
each
me?
other, they have to go through a coordination point, and he's it.
Okay, well, call for the question. You've answered my question.
Any other discussion? Those in favor of approving the letter signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed?
Aye.
Letters approved. Do you happen to have a smooth copy that we can sign? We thank you.
She's 5, that's not appropriate, please.
It's a public meeting, ma'am.
Yeah, well, she's a child.
Leave her at home.
Okay, staff comments. I need a signature.
Nothing at this time, Commissioner.
You can either sign that or not, doesn't make any difference.
That's what I think of it.
You don't happen to have,
I've got
another original?
I have a clean,
Yeah.
I have one.
Would you pass another original? Thank you.
Wendy?
I'll pass on the opportunity for that performance again. Okay, staff comments.
Nothing at this time, Commissioners. I was hoping to have an announcement, but it'll happen soon. And other than that, I'm not gonna say a word.
On.
Well,
Does it have to do with airplanes?
yeah,
Okay.
I'm not saying a word.
Okay, I got it.
Okay.
Any other staff comment? Okay, we're down to the public comment period with general comments, 15 minutes, 3 minutes per person. You'll step to the podium and identify yourself.
That's just general remarks?
General remarks.
Okay, I don't mind. If you don't mind. Okay,
Go ahead.
And just for the record and for anybody attending these meetings, I have a lot of issues with the commissioners.
Your name, please, sorry?
My name is John Smith, but they've always respected the First Amendment. And anybody who comes to these meetings is on notice that any comments made here, there are microphones to the ceiling, and photographs can be taken here, and if you can't tolerate that, then don't come to the meeting. But
Wait, hold it. This is our meeting, not yours.
I'm making a comment, Commissioner,
Yeah.
and
And
I just
I'm
said, give me
commenting on
3
your
minutes to
comment.
make it, and I will not be censored on the content of my speech. Do you
All right.
understand?
Yeah, go ahead on.
Okay, so I've said what I have to say, and you're out of order by trying to act as a government official, censoring my speech. That's a violation of my First Amendment rights, and I won't put up with it. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else? Commissioner comments. Any comments? I have nothing, except to say that I thoroughly enjoyed that get-together last Thursday night that promoted the fair, both financially and spiritually within this community, and I thank all three of the people sitting there in a row, Rachel, Steve, and John, for nailing that together. It was fun to be at, and it was great to have the number of people in this community come together and support the fair as they did. So I appreciate that. So good piece of civic work. Okay. That's all I have. Any other business to come before this meeting? Hearing none, we're adjourned. Thank you very much.